Dr. Burgos.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Public concern over the content of our children's textbooks is a major concern of many parents in our community and across our nation. It's one of the main reasons that motivated me to run for this position a year ago. Along with the over-testing mandates forced on our teachers and students and the loss of local control of our educational system, textbook integrity is a big issue to me. There are certain publishing companies who are becoming notorious for inaccurate and biased textbooks. Pearson is a major one, and it is for this reason that some of us on the board requested a review of this Pearson textbook prior to giving approval. The public needs to understand the problem lies with the publishing companies and not the teachers. Thank God we have great teachers who do an excellent job. And I want them to hear loud and clear. The issue is being taken with the instructional tools and not the instructors. If we do not put the very best instructional resources into the hands of our teachers, then the quality of education may erode over time. And if even little bits of misinformation and bias are introduced into young minds years after years, then the potential for our children to be indoctrinated does exist. If you'll allow me, I would like to give you a medical example. That's, of course, my background. Let's say you have a doctor, maybe an orthopedic spine specialist, who is well-trained, compassionate, a strong advocate for his or her patients. But what if the medicine that was given to the patient was contaminated and the doctor was unaware? And what if the contamination was in such small doses that it was hard to see? Injury to the patient would still occur, and it would be the fault of the pharmaceutical company or the production center of the medicine and not the doctor who gave the medicine. Allow me to illustrate with a true life example. In September of 2012, the CDC, in collaboration with local health departments and the FDA, began investigating a multi-state outbreak of fungal meningitis, which is a potentially fatal brain infection, among patients who received a contaminated steroid injection from a New England compounding center in Massachusetts. The product, the medicine, was contaminated at the distribution site and sent to hospitals, and people received the medicine, which was injected into the spinal cord for pain relief, actually the epidural space. But as a result of the small amount of unseen contamination in the fluid, 64 people died. Now, the reason I tell you this story is to illustrate the fact that if a product is flawed and then widely distributed, the negative effects are far-reaching and not the fault of the providers of the medical care who purchased and used the product in good conscience. I hope you see the parallel. Pearson Publishing is a British publishing giant. As a company, they wield enormous influence in our American education. They write textbooks and tests and drive instruction in public schools across the nation. It has become widely known in other states around the nation that Pearson is producing textbooks for K-12 public schools that are flawed in their content. Dr. William Stokstad, chairman of Citizens for National Security, who worked in the our security in the government, CIA, published a 92-page report in 2 of 212 documenting errors of bias and misinformation in 25 textbooks published by Pearson, slated for use in Florida.
Dr. Burgos.
Yes, ma'am.
Is there
Sir, I'm sorry.
That's okay. Is there anybody has their phones on? I'm hearing noise from the audience. If you could, please silence your phones and remain respectful during the conversations.
Thank you. I'm nearly
finished.
finished.
Excuse me, Dr. Burgos. Excuse me. Sorry for the interruption.
No problem. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, ma'am.
So this report of Dr. Stokstad, it was Palm Beach County Public Schools, 25 textbooks published by Pearson that were flawed. Their school board required Pearson to correct the flawed textbooks, reprint them before they would purchase them, and allow Florida children to learn from them. I do not feel after reviewing this text that it is the very best resource for our teachers. It highlights primarily European artists. It doesn't paint America history in accurate or favorable light. I can give you an example. On page 1126, the credit for the end of the Cold War was Mikhail Gorbachev. No mention of Ronald Reagan, no mention of Margaret Thatcher. It's in my opinion, very one-sided, at least in that example. And so I do not feel comfortable setting a precedent, even if it's 7 students. Actually, this is a great time to do it. There's not 4 or 5 rooms full of courses, and we're going to not have to reschedule a bunch of classes. I think we need to be careful with what we allow to go into the classrooms and set a precedent of a standard of excellence. We are an excellent school system. I want to stay that way. And that's the only reason I feel strongly about this. And I support our teachers, but I don't support Pearson products. And I would like to perhaps in the future move to maybe not just allow those textbooks. Dr. Looney and I have had that discussion, and he said he would agree with that. But that's for another day. For today, I don't feel comfortable with this textbook. And I appreciate you indulging me and hearing my comments instead of shutting us down.
Thank you, Dr. Burgos.
And Dan.